And welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we're so glad to have you here. A new report from Climate Power claims President Trump's policies have canceled or stalled 365 clean energy projects, enough to power nearly 15 million homes, while gas prices have jumped more than $1 a gallon since the conflict with Iran. The group says the moves are driving up utility bills as high as 13% and costing nearly 180,000 clean energy jobs. Standing by is Christina Polizzi, Deputy Communications Director with Climate Power. First up, Governor Mikie Sherrill wants to tighten New Jersey's Stay New Jersey property tax relief program, lowering the income eligibility from $500,000 to $250,000 a year, and cutting the maximum benefit from $6,500 to $4,000. With New Jersey property taxes the highest in the nation and averaging over $10,000 a year, AARP New Jersey worries the change could make it even harder for seniors to age in place. Joining us is Katie Squires, Associate Director at AARP New Jersey. Katie, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Governor Sherrill says that she would like to scale back the Stay New Jersey program by lowering that income threshold and reducing the maximum benefit. Can you talk a little bit about your concerns from the AARP point of view and how these could affect New Jersey seniors?
Yes, absolutely. We are definitely concerned about these cuts. We are hearing from our members that they have budgeted out for the year to try to figure out how they're going to make ends meet. We know utility bills are skyrocketing, gas bills are not getting cheaper, food is expensive, everything is costly, and we live in the highest property tax state in the nation, now topping over $10,000 a year. So we are hearing from our members that they are concerned. How are they going to make ends meet? What choices are they going to have to make? And our members budget over the course of a calendar year, typically, right? We all do. We look at January to December, and unfortunately, the state fiscal season doesn't necessarily match with that. So people are making decisions or have made decisions based on a promise that's been made to them that's now changing. And so we want to make sure that they are able to still have access to this relief that they've been promised.
Okay, so let's talk about property taxes in New Jersey, highest in the country, now averaging more than $10,000 a year. That actually sounds a little low. So can you talk a little bit about how these costs affect older residents on fixed moderate incomes who want to stay in their home? A lot of people, their homes are paid for, right? But they're on Social Security. They might have some health issues going on, and they want to stay in their home, but the taxes keep going up, up, up.
Yeah. We're fortunate that there are several property tax relief programs in New Jersey. There's Stay, there's also the Senior Freeze and Anchor, but there are many programs because there's a great need for many programs, and people are making decisions with the fixed income. And to your point, property taxes don't typically go down; they're going up, and people may have paid off their home, but we hear from one of our volunteers his property tax value skyrocketed, and he's not sure what he's going to be able to pay, if he's going to have to take out from emergency savings that maybe would pay for healthcare in the future or anything like that. So people are definitely concerned about what bills they're going to be able to still pay if this relief is cut.
Well, a recent AARP New Jersey poll found that nearly half of voters 50 and older, they have considered leaving the state. 80% talk about property taxes as a major factor. Now, I'm sure the weather and going south is certainly a draw, but what does that tell you, though, about the pressure seniors are feeling? Is this number increasing, or has it kind of always been that way in New Jersey?
This was a relatively recent poll, and we were surprised at how large the numbers were, particularly for the people 50 plus. I mean, these are people who probably are not yet retired and are making decisions for the future. So it's not just the people who are currently eligible for these programs, but also people who are future eligible. And they're making these decisions or thinking ahead and already planning to leave. And we know that would be a great loss for our state, not only for the diversity in our state to making sure we have a great age diversity, but quite frankly, to our economy as well. There's a huge impact that older residents have on our economy. And so it's very important that we keep older residents. We make it possible for them to stay and age in place in New Jersey. And that's one of the great values of Stay New Jersey.
Right, and that's the whole thing. Seniors to age to stay in place, because whether you move wherever, whether you're going to assisted living or what have you, the longer you stay in your home, the better. But with these proposed cuts to eligibility and benefits, how many more seniors could be priced out of staying in their communities? Do you have a pulse on that?
I don't have the exact numbers, but I think as we look and see these property taxes continue to climb and other affordability issues continue to climb, it just makes sense that more people will feel the squeeze. So the less assistance there is, the more the squeeze there will be. As you just talked about, our average property tax bill is above $10,000. This benefit cut would move it, so it would be only capped at basically $8,000 property tax bill essentially, because it's 50% benefit. So if you only get $4,000, we're now moving the goalpost to below what the average property tax bill is.
I want to shift to another major issue for older New Jerseyans that AARP has highlighted, and that is serious transparency problems when it comes to the state's nursing home industry. Over 75% of New Jersey nursing homes are actually for-profit, and they're often used for complex-related party ownership structures. So can you talk about some of the core issues here?
Sure, and I think this is an issue that affects all taxpayers. New Jersey pays billions of dollars to the nursing home industry every year, taxpayer dollars through Medicaid and Medicare. And what we have seen is this really complex, as you mentioned, infrastructure with a lack of transparency, where nursing homes will, have different functions of their operation go out to companies that they themselves own. And so they're paying themselves for these services. And oftentimes, what we found is that they're paying over what they would pay in the free market. And so our concern is that we, especially in a tight budget year, we don't know where these dollars are going. It's good government, it's good oversight of taxpayer dollars to know where this money is going. Our big concern is that as we continue to talk to nursing home residents and nursing home residents speak out, is that we are not seeing these big dollars. And by the way, increases in the amount every budget, we're not seeing that relate to increased quality of care. We're still hearing about terrible care situations. And not every nursing home is providing terrible care, but it's not a situation where these are just a few bad apples. This is a systemic issue that we need to see where the money is going if it isn't going to care.
I mean, that's astonishing to hear. The state spends more than $2 billion a year on nursing homes and Medicare, Medicaid. Yet again, these concerns that so much are going to overpayments to companies that are actually owned by the same people running the facilities. It's hard enough as a person myself who has aging parents who might eventually have to go to assisted living, or myself, planning for yourself. You have short-term, long-term planning. Like, that is overwhelming as enough to begin with.
Sure.
Then you're looking at, wait a minute, we're paying how much for them to contract something out that's a company that they own? How do you get that stronger transparency and accountability? What do you do in order to ensure there is that transparency and accountability?
Sure. We're supporting a legislation, which is S 2980, to get this transparency. And the major things are audited financial statements that show the full structure. So all those related parties, and see where the money is going within them to make sure that it is going where it needs to be. We at AARP are not opposed to raising Medicaid rates for nursing homes if that's going to bring higher quality of care, but we strongly believe that transparency is a necessary precursor for that.
Yeah, it is so complicated. Knowing where to go, what you qualify, what kind of quality of care, and we don't want to blame those who are actually, boots on the ground, those medical professionals, those caregivers taking care of our elderly. But again, it just seems very disheartening, and it seems like a very overwhelming task.
Absolutely. And to your point about the people providing care, many are overworked, undertrained, underpaid. And if the money is not going to where it's intended to go to the care, that's where we're seeing fewer staff, people who, don't get compensated fairly, people who don't get the appropriate training. All that leads to potentials for catastrophe within a nursing home setting, but it also means that there are people out there who aren't making the money that they should be to provide the care that's needed.
I mean, and that's the other thing. You will have a family member like in a short-term rehabilitation center, and I can speak from personal experience, not in New Jersey, but where my parents live. And the amount of people I saw who were able to afford and hire full-time caregivers to sit with them in a short-term or these other longer-term nursing care. Not everybody, very few can afford it. Even
Absolutely.
the wealthiest, I mean, in no time, your money is gone. But the fact that, you have to hire additional people where you're already spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a week even.
Yes.
It's extraordinary how expensive this is. And, you want to take care of your family members who raised you. At the same time, the amount of money that is being spent as opposed to what the people working there are actually making, it's shocking. It's no wonder they are overworked. Mistakes are made. You have to stay on top of them. Did you give them the medicine? Did you check the chart? Did you do this? Are you even responding to the bell when somebody has to go to the bathroom? They're not always able to do that. It's stunning. It's sad.
Yeah, it really is. And we just think that this is a common sense, good government issue. This is a lot of taxpayer dollars. There should be some transparency to where it's going, particularly because it's intended to provide care for our most vulnerable fellow New Jerseyans.
Circling back to both stay, NJ, and nursing home oversight, this really affects seniors' ability to live with dignity and security. So can you talk just about how these two issues together really reflect the broader affordability and protection challenges facing those who are aging in New Jersey?
Absolutely. I think they both tie really well to affordability, which is definitely a major issue that our members and all older New Jerseyans are grappling with. First of all, Stay New Jersey is helping people to be able to stay in their homes. As the name kind of indicates, it's convenient. But also when we are talking about potential cuts to Medicaid, when we're talking about issues of making sure that we can take care of people who need help the most, when we have billions with a B of dollars going to one industry and it kind of becomes a black hole of different companies and everything where it's really hard to see where the dollars are going. That's not only an issue of transparency and accountability, but it can also be tied to affordability if these dollars could be used more efficiently.
Final thoughts here, your message to New Jersey seniors and their families who are worried and concerned about these budget decisions and rising costs as we live longer and longer, thankfully living longer and longer.
Yes, absolutely. I think the big thing is to remind folks that you are welcome to reach out to your legislator to let them know your concerns. That's what they're, elected to do. I think many of them will tell you that. And AARP will be fighting with you in your corner.
Okay. Katie Squires, AARP New Jersey, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, Laura.
Let's start this next part of the show, Jeopardy style, the Jersey edition. The answer is a Jersey guy making national headlines with an historic winning streak on one of television's most iconic game shows. Who is Jamie Ding?
I'm tempted to try to say something really profound and esoteric, and I guess here it is. Housing is good. People, need somewhere to live. And one thing I've learned from being on Jeopardy, just a little behind the scenes talk, is just it's such a hospitable environment that the show creates for its contestants and for its audience, and you just feel welcome there. And, that's what I really want for everyone to feel welcome. And, and here in New Jersey, we've done a great job, but it's also this executive order, will help make things better, I think. And when you always consider something somebody else's problem, it will never get solved. So it's nice that we're doing something responsible here. It's always time to get to work, but this executive order really signals, time to get to work. So let's do it.
While Ding's been stacking up wins on Jeopardy and making the media rounds, his day job is actually in housing here in New Jersey, an issue that was also front and center this week for Governor Mikie Sherrill. She signed an executive order aimed at accelerating housing development across the state.
We have to make it easier to build more homes to boost supply and bring prices down. I made that a priority, and I assembled a team of experts and advocates to advise my transition on how we could immediately get to work. Many of them are here now, and I want to thank them for their efforts, which informed the steps that we are taking today. So as I'm about to complete my first 100 days in office, I'm pleased to sign an executive order that lays the foundation for a new government-wide housing strategy. It will help us cut red tape, get shovels in the ground, and build. We're looking at housing across the spectrum: mixed income and market rate, rental and sale, housing that is affordable. For example, the state owns a lot of land. It could be put to better use, like empty lots close to transit hubs where people want to live because it's easy to get to work. I want to see homes built there. And we're going to take an inventory of existing housing that's affordable and make sure that people know how to apply. To get all this done, we need all of government working together. So this order gives departments and agencies across my administration 60 days to report back with new ideas to speed up housing production. I'm often fond of saying, I don't want a 10-year study or a strongly worded letter. That's why we're putting these deadlines in, to be the state that moves most aggressively and most quickly in ideas for building out the housing we need. It creates a housing governing council led by our COO and several key departments to compile that input into a detailed plan due in September. It will consider everything from financing to land to construction and more. It's a blueprint for building more starting now.
And those are just some of the stories making headlines across New Jersey this week. A new climate power report claims President Trump's policies have canceled or stalled 365 clean energy projects, enough to power nearly 15 million homes, while driving utility bills up as much as 13% and costing nearly 180,000 jobs. Gas prices have also jumped more than $1 a gallon since the conflict with Iran. Joining us now is Christina Polizzi, Deputy Communications Director with Climate Power. Christina, welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a lot to talk about. Your new report says 365 clean energy projects have been taken off the table since President Trump took office. So what exactly do these canceled or stalled projects represent in terms of lost energy production and jobs?
Absolutely. Our report shows that Donald Trump and Republicans have really plunged us into a self-inflicted energy crisis. These jobs would, here in New Jersey, 8,000 jobs, more than 8,000 jobs have been lost or canceled. That would have generated enough energy to power more than 3.2 million homes. So people across the country, as a result of losing these projects, are paying more for their utility costs. Here in New Jersey, that number is more than 17% increase since Donald Trump took office.
All right, so the report, again, these projects, they could have, this number is really astounding. The projects could have powered the equivalent of nearly 15 million homes. So can you talk about that loss again right now, especially with the rising cost of electricity from these data centers and also extreme weather?
Absolutely. What we know is that we need more energy on the grid right now. So by canceling these projects, Donald Trump is not only risking the jobs of more than 180,000 Americans, he is also causing our domestic energy supply to decrease. We need to keep up with the rising demand from AI and data centers in order to keep costs down. And Donald Trump and Republicans have taken a critical player in keeping those costs down, which is clean energy, completely off the table, putting their finger on the scale for oil and gas.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need a report to know how much electric bills have gone up, right? Open your bill. But your reporting is showing households risen as much as 13%. It feels like it's a lot more than that nationally. Natural gas prices by about 12%. Here in New Jersey, it's just astronomical. What's the direct connection between these canceled clean energy projects and higher cost for families across the nation, but here in New Jersey as well?
Of course, it's simple supply and demand. When demand is rising, which it is at a astronomical rate because of the demand caused by AI and data centers, we need to make more energy in order to keep up with that and prevent the cost from being passed on to consumers. By taking these energy projects offline, Donald Trump is gutting our domestic energy production when we need it most. And that's why consumers are seeing higher and higher bills every single month.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about gas prices? They have skyrocketed ever since the U.S. conflict with Iran began. How long does Climate Power, how long do you all expect this pain to be felt at the pump? And how much worse do you project it could get?
It seems that there's absolutely no end in sight. Donald Trump himself was on Fox News just over the weekend saying, well, they could go up a little bit more before the midterms. Who's to say? And experts say that even if the conflict in Iran were to end, gas prices would still not fall for several more months. So Donald Trump and Republicans have created a situation where not only are Americans paying more at the pump, not only are they paying more and more every single month on their utility costs, but they're paying more for healthcare, for groceries. The price of gas impacts everything. And so costs are rising for virtually everything, and Americans are really feeling that pain.
Right, that's that domino effect that, you think, oh, well, that's where you hit it at the gas pump, so just don't drive as much, but it isn't that simple, and it is passed along. Now, this report also highlights nearly $1 billion in taxpayer dollars that was spent to stop offshore wind projects. So why does your group see this damaging to the American energy security and affordability?
Yes,
security. Sorry.
It's spending more money, spending taxpayer dollars to essentially leave us with less energy. The clean energy is the fastest and cheapest way to get more energy on our grid, and we need more energy now. Oil and gas turbines take about 5 to 7 years to actually get any energy onto our grid. By comparison, wind and solar are able to get up and running very quickly. So if we are going to meet the urgent energy demand, we need to have clean energy investments, and we need to be building more energy that can get onto our grid very quickly.
Now let's talk about the energy jobs that have been lost or stalled, upwards of 180,000. Factories are facing higher energy costs. So how do you see this affecting the overall economy and also America's competitiveness when it comes to other countries like China, for example?
What we've seen is that China has been more than happy to step in to fill the gap that Donald Trump has created in clean energy leadership. And in fact, China's investment of clean energy has made them less susceptible to foreign oil shocks, which of course Americans are feeling across the country right now. What we know is that losing these jobs, it leaves workers in limbo. Here at Climate Power, we work with a worker in Rhode Island who was essentially getting ready to go out to work on a clean energy job, and then it was canceled. And it's leaving families and workers across the country in limbo, not knowing when they're going to get their next paycheck. And it is given the competitive edge to China.
Yeah, well, President Trump campaigned on slashing electric costs. But according to your analysis, what's actually happening is energy prices. What is happening, actually, according to your analysis, under his administration?
Donald Trump ran on a promise to cut energy bills in half his first year in office. And anyone who's opened their energy bill recently knows that that was just another broken promise. By gutting clean energy investments across the country and taking a sledgehammer to these projects, we are taking energy offline. That runs exactly counter to everything that Donald Trump promised to do once he was in office. And we're seeing that negatively impact Republicans politically. Americans are feeling the squeeze everywhere from the pump to paying their bills to the grocery store. And Democrats are laser focused on affordability as we head into the midterms.
Final thoughts here. Bottom line message from this report for American families, the ones who are, seeing these higher gas and utility bills right now.
Donald Trump and Republicans have plunged us into a self-inflicted energy crisis. if we are going to keep up with the rising energy demand from data centers, we need to invest in clean energy. It's quick, it's cheap, and it's going to lower people's utility costs.
If people want to find out more information, where can they go? How can they get involved? I'll let you just talk a little bit more about, what it is you do and how people can get involved with this, because people are very frustrated. What can they do from where they are sitting other than, trying to pay the bill or split the bill up because they can't afford to pay the bills?
Absolutely. I would definitely encourage Americans to, make their opinions heard, especially if you have Republican members of Congress. I would encourage you to continue to voice those concerns to your representatives. And Climate Power is an org that is dedicated to making sure that Americans understand how clean energy can benefit their lives. So you can check us out to learn a little bit more about how that might impact your community directly.
Best place to go online to find you?
Climatepower.org.
Okay. All right. Christina Polizzi, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
And that'll do it for today. I'm Laura Jones. Thanks so much for watching New Jersey Politics. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.